I'd like to go over one of the ways that we estimate materials when we're looking at cost estimates. Remember, there's material estimates and labor estimates, and this is one of the ways that we get rough estimates for material costs, particularly in this case for wall systems. Okay, that's walls, windows, doors, the sealant, the nailing, the shear plates, the shear panels, the insulation, the vapor barriers, all those things that go into that system. Okay, so let's just do a real brief kind of check and see. So first of all, there's many ways to do this. You can count up all the parts. You can get very detailed about it, but often we want a rough estimate. This is just to see if our design looks like it's worth going into a detailed review. So this would be in the conceptual level that we would work on this. So when we do that, one way it's done, there are other ways, but one way, and it's a very powerful and quick and easy way to keep current and to use, is to use what we call modules. Okay, and that's a part of the system that's mostly the same, no matter how many times they're repeated in a design. So walls are mostly the same. When you do a design, mostly, if you're doing exterior, for an instance, you're going to use 2x6 advanced framing. And so you can figure out what an 8-foot section or a 10-foot section or a 4-foot section of that will cost. And then you know that if you're going to add a window or add a door, there's going to be some additional cost to it. But mostly, 8 foot of wall costs the same as 8 foot of wall. And so we use that for estimates. Okay, estimates in general, we try to get them a little bit high. We would rather estimate too much than too little, and this is one way to do it. So let's say we have an 8-foot by 8-foot wall module. What's going to be in it? There's going to be some lumber. We're going to have top plates and bottom plates and studs and maybe some headers and things like that. We're going to have some sealant. That goes down to the bottom where you put the sill plate down onto the foundation. There's going to be something called flashing, which we haven't talked about a lot, but that keeps water from seeping in underneath the sill plate. There will definitely be some insulation. We've talked about that, and some sheathing, both exterior and interior, usually, and some sort of a vapor barrier. So that's sort of the minimum amount. Okay, so how do we do this? So step number one is find the cost of the wall module. How much is all this going to cost in my design for an 8-foot wide by 8-foot tall wall? Now maybe your wall is 10-foot tall. You would use an 8-foot wide by 10-foot tall module. Okay, so your module has to match your design. Once you do that, you find out how many modules there are in the design. So you take the total length of the foundation, that's usually the stem wall length, and divide it by the module length. So if I had 8 foot of foundation and an 8-foot module, of course I'd need one, I'd have one module. If I had 16 feet of foundation and an 8-foot module, 16 divided by 8 is 2, I'd need 2 modules, and so on and so forth. Okay, once you know how many modules there are, you're ready, and you know the cost of a module, you're ready to get the wall cost estimate. That's the number of modules times the cost for each module. There. So it's pretty It's pretty straightforward. 1, 2, 3 steps. Let's see how it looks. So let's figure out how we're going to get the wall module cost. So you need the cost for each item in the material. And then you find something called the extended cost. So if I know the cost of one piece of lumber, and if I need 9 pieces of lumber, I'd have to take that 9 times the cost for each piece of lumber. And that's called the extended cost. So you just go down through your picture, you look at your picture, and you list all of the components, and you figure out how many of those things you need. And sometimes it's not a quantity, but it's a square foot or a pound or a tube. And those are called the units. So if you're using like 9 each of them, each one, that's called 9 each. If you're using square foot, area, it's square foot or square inch or something like that. Sometimes it's based on a length also. Nails are interesting. They usually come in boxes that are by the pound. So somebody has to kind of know about this. You have to kind of look it up and know about it. And often sealant comes in a tube, and so you want to know, how much of that tube you're going to use and how much it costs. So here, as an example, I see that there's some lumber here, and I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And that's standard wall framing with no openings for windows or doors. So I need 9. Okay, I'm gonna say it's gonna be a 2x6. And this person, this designer, is telling me to use, even for the studs, select Doug Fir Larch. That's what the designer has said, so that's what I'm gonna use. So I've got 9 pieces, 8 foot long. I realize these are either gonna be trimmed or a little bit less. That's okay. And Doug Fir Larch. So I can look that up and find out how much one costs. Now, there are other ways to get that cost. It's called board feet and all that other kind of stuff. We'll deal with that at another time. Okay. And then I see that there's going to be rigid board external insulation. Okay. And that there's going to be 4x8 sheets, because I can find 4x8 sheets of 2-inch rigid board. So to make 8 foot long, I'll need 1 4x8 plus another 4x8. 2 sheets of 4x8 rigid external insulation. And I can look up the cost for each one of those. And my extended cost then is 2, the quantity, times 55, the cost is 110. So I just keep doing that all the way down. And then when I've got all the components, I'm going to add them up. Now, there are some things that, maybe you're going to say, yeah, and I also need a little of this and a little of that. And you just say, okay, it's very inexpensive compared to this. I'm not going to do it. And you notice I didn't put the flashing on here. Okay, I just put some of the stuff on. But you get the idea on how it goes. So now we have to find out how many modules. So here's that building we've done before. It's 36 feet along this line, and then 12 feet, 8 feet, 12 feet, 22.